And it's, once you've put that in and gone to the site, Chuck has called it the cloud. Forget about that. It's just a storage computer. Once you go to that site, it's just like using Google. So it isn't hard. We can answer more questions about that if you have them later on.
So tell us who you are, Vaughn.
The main point of all this is that we have a lot of information about Fabius history. A lot of it is Bill's personal goods. A lot of it is things that Fabius historians past have collected. And Bill has photographed all these, or many of these items, and put them on storage that we can access. And as you were looking at the slideshow earlier, these were some of the historic Fabius photographs, some titled and documented, others still needing documentation, all of which are available to us all on the web. We're going to be showing you as we go through today more items, many more items that are already available for you to view. And our point is, let's keep these things from being lost, and let's make them available to all of us and to everyone else who has interest in Fabius history, including coming generations will find it much easier than for some of us to use, and would have had no idea of it if it hadn't been preserved.
Does everybody have a copy of the handout? Does anybody?
No, they're here.
Yeah, let's.
You want to pass them around?
Anybody?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Created a hotspot here, so if you have a hotspot, you can tie in with it.
Yeah. We're on Time Warner's hotspot right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
So you are on the internet.
So, okay, Vaughn, let them take care of the handout, everybody will get them, and let's go on. I've always felt it's important to know who's giving you the presentation and their background and how come they're an expert, so I forced Vaughn and myself to do a little introduction, so. This is Vaughn's contact information, he's got all the answers. It's on your handouts.
Yeah, Bill thinks that I needed to be introduced because I'm not a native like he is. We have been here for a little over 50 years, so the house in the middle of that picture is where I live now on Ridge Road. It's just 3 doors up Ridge Road from where Roy Powers lives. Most of you will know him. Bill wants to show we've community. We contributed something to the village. That's a picture of the house when we moved to it in 1968. 2 pictures of it. And there's a picture of well, you saw David Pelcher's paintings 3 or 4 months back. That fellow on the roof is David's older brother, Bert, who, well, you can see the project that he started for us and actually completed for us. Go ahead, Bill. And the next picture shows the house later on with the addition that Bert put up for us. And then we added one more addition to house Sally's mother for a time. And then the last picture is the house as it looks now. So that's Sally and me.
And this is my introduction. I live over in the west side of town, and well, my wife Joanne and I live in this house, and we've been remodeling it for 40 years. It never ends, and this is Google Earth shot of our farm. We're dairy farmers. We store our feed outside in round bales here, and you can see our solar panels. Our farm is all solar powered. And of course, if you live in an old house, you've gone through the remodeling. So that's been an ongoing project. But we're here today to talk about the Fabius Historical Society and the purpose that we've had to collect and share the history of the area. And we've done quite a job operating the Highland Park Museum, and we have to give a lot of thanks to Al LaFrance and Sandy Beglinger for making that happen. Every Memorial Day, we try to put a big display out, and there's just no way to show everything that we've collected over the years. And we have great monthly meetings and tremendous turnouts, and we've had great newsletters, and Sandy's taken on the newsletter project, and they're very good. But there's so many things that we just can't show, and we feel it's important that the public know what we have to encourage more people to share with us. So we've taken the giant leap forward to go to the cloud storage for free for anybody. You don't even have to be a member to look at our holdings. And what we're going to be exposed to today is merely a project partially done. And, you know, there's thousands of photos in it, but we've only got a tip of the iceberg, and we're really looking for more information and more people to help us. Now, if we compare our historical society to the Onondaga Historical Association, they have a database, and you can go to this photo database and plug in Fabius, New York, and you can see their whole collection. And this is everything that they know about Fabius. And every photo that they own has got a watermark on it, so you can't right-click on it and steal it. You can't lift it off there. You've got to pay for it. And here's their rates. And this is typical for many historical societies. A collection becomes their fundraiser. And we're taking a totally different perspective, saying that if people have donated it to the Historical Society, we want to share it. And of course, we don't have the overhead that some of these organizations have. We sat back and said, do we really want cloud storage, or do we want to have it in a web page format? And if we were to have a web page and pay for the amount of data we had, it would cost us thousands of dollars per year. And in web pages, the average American web page user spends about 10 seconds per web page. And it would take us that long to just upload some of the photos. So we've gone to cloud storage options. Much of our information has been captured with a camera. Scanners do work, but scanners are very slow. And when you're sitting there looking at thousands of pages to do, and using scanners where I can scan maybe 15 documents per hour, but with my camera I can shoot 100 documents per hour and still have the same resolution. So most of our work is done through cameras. The big thing we face today, now that everything is digital, is deciding on the resolution of a photo. When we take a photo today, digitally, we need to make a decision ahead of time how we're going to use the photo. In the old days, when we worked with film, the decision was made by the camera, by the film, to capture all the details. Today, we can decide how many pixels to have a photo, so we're deciding how good and how large that photo is going to be. So we're making that decision for generations to come, how they're going to use that photo. So when we take a picture, we need to think about, okay, is this going on to Facebook? And I could care less whether it lasts 10 minutes or 10 seconds. So that can be a junky, small photo, whereas if it's a family reunion and you want everybody gathered, it could be used for 100 years later. So you need high resolution for that.
Bill, let me interject just a little bit here. Resolution. Probably all of you have seen pictures taken electronically, and sometimes you want to blow them up or zero in. And onto a specific part of the picture. And when you do that, if you blow up far enough, the picture begins to get blurry because the number of dots or pixels that that picture had in it can't expand. And as you make them bigger, you're starting to see the individual dots and your picture gets blurry. Bill showed me an old photograph that was taken from where the bowling alley or sports building is here opposite the post office, taken of the back of Main Street many years ago, it was in the late 1800s. And that picture showed in the middle of it a white building, rather prominent, that's the Methodist Church. Well, that was kind of interesting. It was a nice old photo, and it showed this building and a couple of little gray areas in front of the building. Bill said, well, let me show you what we can do with this photograph as we expand it. There weren't any pixels there. It was a real photograph. Well, Bill blew it up and blew it up on his machine until we could see that the two little gray blobs in the picture were carriage sheds for the horse and carriage that the folks would have brought to church. And I said, gee, that's pretty amazing. And he said, well, let me show you what more we can do. And he blew it up a little further, and we started to see people and faces standing by the horse and carriage. It's amazing what can be done with these old photographs. And
So I guess the point we want to make it at this point is, just because it's not digital and it's old, it's actually more valuable than all the new stuff we have today. So just because it was grandma's photo and it's a photo album, don't feel like you ought to toss it. Because those pictures are much better than anything we print today. And there's much more detail in it. And this is a photo that we pulled out of my family album. And this was first Casey family reunion taken in 1914, and it's taken with just a little Brownie camera. Just nothing special. They happened to be standing in front of the new barn that they built. Irving Scale went down to Truxton and built this barn. Family's very proud of it. So the reunion comes, everybody has to stand in front of the barn doors and have their picture taken. So this is 101 years later. This picture is a 2-inch by 3-inch photo. And the detail, the resolution is there to be able to blow it up. And you could actually take any face in this photo and make an 8 by 10 out of it. If this was a digital photo printed today, you'd be lucky to print a 4 by 6 with this. So you have to think about that whenever you take a photo.
we should say too, Bill, that if any of you have photographs of historic interest and are willing to let Bill have them to make a photographic copy of and then return to you, they would be valuable to add to our collection.
Yeah, can I break in here? I don't know if I'm getting the mic or not, but anyhow, do you have names for all of these people here?
We've got
And if you do,
3/4 of them.
if you do, how do you plan to use that? Is that a separate picture?
We built an ancestry tree, and people, their faces go with their names. And we've got the silhouettes all done of this.
Well, let me add another sidebar. You mentioned these horse sheds at the church.
My camera shoots at about 1,000 dpi.
You mentioned these horse sheds at the church. I remember one day I was having a talk with Dwayne Steele, and I said, how did you meet your wife? And he said, well, I really was impressed by her when I saw her driving horses to the church, and she handled them so well. So if we didn't have horse sheds, well, history might have been different. Thank you.
Now, we want to talk a little bit about printing digital photographs because it gets worse. We're going to borrow a picture of Dick Woodford. And I'm sure Dick doesn't mind. He's here somewhere. Do you remember this photo, Dick?
Yeah, this Helena Hanitzky is from Germany.
1952, right?
German's League meeting, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do a close-up on Dick. Now, you notice all the dots we see here? This is like digital printing, but this is printing press printing, so this would be 75 dots per inch. Anything printed on the very best digital printer right now would be 300 dots per inch. And you need to have a quality image of 300 dots per inch to get the best you can. But a digital printer is only going to be able to give you that photo at 300 dots per inch, which means you can't enlarge it. So if you're printing off a digital photo and you expect someday to have it scanned and enlarged, you aren't going to be happy with the outcome. So you need to save that computer file as equivalent to your negative, as opposed to the print. So we're going to use Dick as our example here of what a print actually looks like. So if we took a digital image, expanded it, we'd see a series of dots like that. Our example is 75 dots per inch, but the best digital photo today is 300. Now, if you use an old photo like Vaughn was telling, this is just a postcard professionally done of Peculiar Station, and we're looking from west towards the east. And we're going to zoom in on it with our magnifying glass and look at the crossroad, the railroad crossing sign, and see if we can read it. And, we can easily see it. We've magnified it about 25 times.
I know, was this scanned in, or did you take a picture?
This is a photograph of a card.
And your camera is what type resolution?
I'm working at 25 megapixels, and it works at about 1,000 dpi. And basically everything I take, I'm saving for generations to come, so I'm always looking at high resolution.
And is your camera mounted?
Yep, and the tripod that the camera sits on sits in front, and it can be raised and lowered. I just didn't hook the camera up. So it just sits in my house all the time, ready to go with a remote control. So if anybody knocks on the door with photos, I can do them while they come, because nobody wants to lose their photos. So, to see what we've collected, this is your invitation. This site is not open to the public. It's an invite only. This web address is your invite. Okay, you can search on Google all you want, Fabius Historical Society, Digital Archives, you'll never get in the door. You have to type in this URL. Okay, and you can't type it in the Google search box because Google doesn't have a clue what this is all about. So you have to type it in the top. And when you do, you'll pop into this Fabius Historical Society file system. Now, feel free to share that URL with anybody. Email it to somebody. It doesn't cost us any more if people look at it. It is open to the public. If you feel like contributing to the existence of the Fabius Historical Society, become a member. But there's no cost and it's open to the public. You just can't find it without that invite. So we're going to go through some of these slides. I'm going to pick on the Abbott family because Linda Myers a few years ago brought me baskets of Abbott photos for a Abbott 100th reunion. And the photos were fantastic and they were all originals. And she wanted to come up with something to give to the family members. So we photographed everything and put together a PowerPoint for her and put everything on a disc so she could hand them out to the family.
Guys, how many gigabytes or terabytes is all that?
Our site right now is 1.2 terabytes, and that costs us $100 a year. And we've used about 20% of it.
20%?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so
So we've got a lot of room to go.
yeah, you're purchasing 1.2 terabytes,
Yeah.
but out of that 20%, so you probably got about 200 and...
Yes. Which, if you were to try to put them on DVDs, it would be a big stack. So if you go and click on the Abbott file folder, you're going to suddenly see thumbnails of all these different people. And you can, let's see, this is the disc we put together for Linda, and the contents of the disc. She had Bible pages and newspaper clippings and the neat things to have all these people's information was we were able to build a family tree. And I need trees to be able to understand the relationship between peoples. I have to have photos. When somebody tells me that they're their third cousin once removed, I have to look at a tree to figure it out. So trees are my answers. This is an example of the quality of some of the photos. It doesn't look good in our projections today, but it's much better on the computer. Any of these photos can be downloaded to your computer, or if you want to have your own Dropbox account, which you can have a 2 gigabyte Dropbox account for free, you can download them right to your account. This is a different way to look at them, where each one is a small little thumbnail. You could just click on the little box over here and you could download them as a zip file directly to your computer, or you could just stick them in a Dropbox account.
Now, the file is coming down, before you had them, we'll say, I
Yeah.
need pictures.
Either a file or the whole, or the individual photo. You can do either way.
So the individual photo would come down as a zip too?
Yeah. So most of the photos are about 5 or 6 megabytes, so it's a fairly large. It's big enough that it's hard to email to somebody. You don't know if they're gonna.
Is it Dropbox in the cloud?
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of different companies that are in the cloud storage. Most of them will give you a small account for free. Dropbox has a specialty to allow other people to look at it and download it. And that's the reason we chose them.
Bill, let me interject now. You've gotten some questions that are fairly technical. From the standpoint of somebody like me that's not real handy with computers, the bottom line for me is, once you go into that site with the invitation, tiny URL that Bill showed on the screen, once you go in there, then it's as simple as using any other website. This isn't a website, but it's like a website in your use. We don't have to store things, we don't have to download them, we can just look. If we want to get into downloading and printing, we can do that. But we don't have to know about cloud, we don't have to know about storage. It's just pull it up, click on the section you're interested in, and use it.
So the next one is the alumni directory that we print. And we've sold a lot of copies of these for $10. But I like the electronic version of it, because suppose you meet somebody that graduated from Fabius and you have no clue at how old they are, what class they graduated in. You can just hit Control F, type in their name, and it'll take you right to the directory what year they were in school. So it's kind of a neat thing. Or if you didn't spend the $10, you now have an electronic copy of it. Hopefully it won't hurt our sales too much. And this is a downloadable file. As I struggle with understanding families and have built family trees, I've saved them onto here. So if you wanted to look at the Bramer family or the Blaney family, it shows you relationship of everybody. And these little files can be taken and put into a program like Family Tree Maker, and it just gives you all the details on the family. And of course, they're all privatized where you can't find anybody that's living, so you can't steal social security numbers and all that.
And the GED is specific to your...
GED is a kind of a universal genealogical file.
So there's no pictures in here?
There's no pictures, but all the data is there. So,
And we should add that while there are several genealogies here, it would be nice to have additional genealogies of old Fabius families. And we asked you for your input, you folks that have some things that you think would be of historic interest to save.
Like old Fabius families, how old?
just 50 years.
Just 50 years?
I got a question.
Yep.
What year is 2 years ago?
I think that I printed this off the other day, so it's 2 years from the other day. So I haven't,
So from 10 years now, you look at that and it's still 2 years ago?
I don't know if that'll change if I do it
I don't know.
next year. It might say 3 years, so.
I would think it would change on
I
that.
mean, it seems like it'd be a date there instead of 2 years ago.
Well, Dick, if you let Bill use a copy of the Woodford genealogical study, it'll get updated.
I don't know if we have room for that one. That's a big, big family.
You can have it.
So this is an example from Linda's information she shared with us. We built a tree from Linda. And I've always tried to understand the Abbots and the Skeels. And all this information was in the files, and Nancy Edwards helped us a little with hers. So if you were to go to Ancestry, which is a program that we use, and plug in that file, this is what would pop up. And there are a few photos on this because I happen to have the photos and I like photos, so.
No, this is a picture of your genealogy program out.
Yeah, this is just a screen print
Okay.
of that.
And that is saved up to the Dropbox?
This print is not, but the GED file is. So, yeah, so you could. So,
Does this mean that the third generation over, you have no more information?
let's see, start from Linda, we'll go 3 more generations, and you see the little arrows up on top? That means there's more families beyond that. And we're gonna take a look at it. I
No,
think,
I meant like Samuel.
okay,
You have no more information about that
we're
person.
gonna take a look at it,
Okay,
okay?
thanks.
I think we're doing Abbott's first. Okay, so, if you go down to the bottom here, we're following through in the Abbots, and you see we're out here to George Jr. This last date here is death in 1732, and then we have George. We don't have dates on George, but you see this arrow out here? It tells us there's even more. So here's George, and we're going to go out 1, 2, 3 more generations. And yet, Ancestry is telling us with these little leaves that there are more hints that you should look at, other people that have trees or records. So, and we've invited Linda and Nancy to, we were hoping that they would take over these trees and build and add to them and correct them and all that, and I don't know if they have, but
So the program that's running under is from Ancestry.com?
this is from Ancestry.com. So now let's take a look at the Skeel gang, and we're up here through Samuel. Let's see. Irving is our barn and house builder. Most of our fancy houses built in Fabius and Apulia in the area from 1870 to 1930 are Irving's work. Of course, Irving worked for his dad, Dwayne, in together until Irving went out on his own. And when they came to town, they built most of our town. So as you drive up and down the street and you see a house that looks magnificent, they most likely have done it. Now, Nancy Edwards shared with us some of Irving's diaries, and it was just amazing to see him talking about a farmer had a fire. Next thing you know, he was there talking to the farmer about building the barn, what size barn, talking to people about building their houses. And lo and behold, in the next year, the house was done. It was amazing. And then we go on a little bit farther with the Skeels. And this arrow up here tells us that there should be more. But I don't think I copied it.
I have more that I'll get to.
Okay, so we're back to the file. We could go through all these files, but I'm not sure that we want to spend the time, and I don't know what everybody has interest in. So
Do you have a
What-
district voice? Just me, a scrapbooks.
Why don't you go back to that for just a second, Bill? Just to give people, to make sure that you have an appreciation for how much is available on there. Bill's already talked about the Abbott photos and the alumni directory. There is a collection on Fabius churches, the Fabius genealogies, some town records, a lot of historic photos to which we would like to add more. if you have some that can be copied by Bill, there are old maps of the town from the early days, from the land grant days. There's a large series of alphabetized obituaries, some newsletters, so you're gonna go into those, Bill.
Yeah. And we're talking about obituaries, and we won't bother with the maps.
There's just a ton of information there, and there should be 10 times that much. We're looking for help to put it in.
I saw a directory up there with Fabius Fabius Church, you said. Are the photos inside there also part of the master library, or? Okay.
So, some of those files I put there so it gives me a place to put things, like if you open up Fabius Churches, you're not gonna see anything. But if I have a file to put in there, I have to have some place to put it, or it's just gonna float around and I'll never be able to get it in the right spot, so I've been creating more files. Now, one of the biggest files here is the scrapbooks, and we want to give credit to Judy Conway, who really started this whole scrapbook project many, many years ago. She had a tremendous infatuation with scrapbooks, and people loved to loan her scrapbooks, and she loved to show them off. And we have a tremendous collection of scrapbooks in both of these safes.
This is in the basement of this building. There are 2 safes that were purchased with funds that were donated to the society in Judy's memory. And so now we have some good, secure storage for the scrapbooks. There are between 50 and 70 in total that we have physically, and some more which we have digitally, which were loaned to Bill, which he's copied. We'll get into that.
And most of these are just Xerox copies of originals. There's not that many originals. And this was a typical Memorial Day where all the scrapbooks are laid out, and I would come over Memorial Day and I would be really lucky to get through 3 or 4 scrapbooks just sitting there reading. And when there's 60 or 70 of them, it's impossible to know everything, to see everything. And sometimes you have to wait in line for somebody to finish to look at them. So it just gave me the drive to make them all available. Now, we're going to turn it over to Vaughn for a minute, because this has been his baby of taking my photography work and converting it to something that's readable.
Well, yes, Bill has taken each of those books, or several of those books, we've got more to go, that you saw in the safe, and some others that have been loaned to him. And he's, with his camera set up, photographed each page, and so we have now a high-quality digital record of the scrapbook. He then gives me a copy of those digital photographs on a thumb drive that I put in my computer, and that's a blow-up of a thumb drive.
And this just happens to be David Pilcher's paintings that were taken and given to us, and we're using that as our example of what a file looks like. So this is what Vaughn faces when he sits down with a thumb drive, and there's just a few items in this one, and he has to go through each photo and edit, crop, adjust, twist, change the colors. And I've been amazed at Vaughn, who gets by on the computer, but he isn't an expert, but he's mastered Photoshop enough to do what he needs to do.
Photoshop, actually.
Well, and
I'm gonna need your help.
it's really amazing. You'll come over and you'll make a few notes on what to do when you get stuck, and next thing you know, the file's done and ready to be uploaded.
I might add that Bill gave me a 2002 copy of Photoshop, which is relatively simple, and I was able to get to use it. Well, I bought a new computer recently and bought a 2015 version, and now I can't use it. I've got to learn all over again.
Vaughn, is that Photoshop or Photoshop Elements?
It's Lightroom.
So you have a subscription through Adobe for Photoshop now?
Yes.
It's Photoshop then, yeah? I pay $10 a month for it.
No, I don't have a subscription. I bought the program.
Yeah.
Software.
Okay, then you got elements, because you can't buy Photoshop. You can only rent it.
I don't know what I've got.
But he's got some learning to do, plus he's got Windows 10 now to learn. So he's got a good winter coming.
You're on our snow.
But Tom Pilcher came to David Pilcher's photo presentation, and he walked around and snapped all the pictures and then shared them with us, and then this has been Vaughn's project, and they're all under the David Pilcher program file.
Yeah, we had several, as most everybody here was probably at the David Pilcher presentation. We had several good quality photographs of some of the best of David's work. But then we also had 30 or 40 pictures brought in by those of you who attended. And I said to Chuck and to Tom, gee, there are these other ones are not in our program. Let's try to save them so that we can put them into a quote scrapbook to put on our storage. And Tom went around with his large cell phone and took photographs, and we were able to work with them, and now we have a record of some additional paintings of David's.
Yeah, and let me add something else. If you were not at the program or you want a copy of the program, we have some copies available here, right over there at the table, so you can buy for a reasonable price. You can buy a copy of David Pilcher's program.
So that's a better picture enhanced with the Photoshop program of the photo which Tom Pilcher took of David's painting. And I might add that this unit here, this projector, is greatly diminishing the quality of what we see. If you were to look at Bill's computer here, it's much sharper and brighter. And when you enter the site to look at things online, it will be as bright as it is on Bill's screen here, much better than what we're looking at on the wall.
So Vaughn has brought a different element of organization to our historical society. We have both of those saved full of scrapbooks, but we didn't even know what we had. So he made a nice list, Excel spreadsheet of all the different scrapbooks we have, whether they're history, whether they're original, whether we photographed them. So he added a nice element for us, and then we have to fill out this column over here of do they exist on the cloud, and that's my work that I haven't done yet. So here's just a close-up.
So a scrapbook name, say School News Heffernan, that would be one file containing all the pictures related to that subject, or is that just a folder?
That was a scrapbook made by, you have the full name of Miss Heffernan?
No, I don't. And
Shirley Heffernan's it was her mother that did those. And then she-
now, these scrapbooks are not by subject. They just happen to be whatever that person happened to collect. Which, if you're searching on a certain topic, you're out of luck. But
This is probably a good time to interject that we want to have information topically, and we would like to have a school topic and create a long history of school records and school information. We have it now as various people have made scrapbooks of things that were of interest to them over the years. Yes?
Are these scrapbooks indexed at all? I mean, do you go through them and
They're-
write down or document who's listed or who's in there so that you could do like a people search?
They're not. And it would be well to do that. It would be very, very time intensive. And it's potentially, we can do that over time with enough volunteers.
Right, well, we have the same problem. There's never enough people to do
We don't have as many, but what we have is, it's different.
Yeah.
So one of the topics that we, as Bill and I got talking about this, I said, well, gee, we have a lot of scrapbooks. We have very little on sports history from the school. And wouldn't it be nice to have some? And we got talking, Bill and myself and Ben Needham, who is trying to develop some more. And I said, well, let's see if we can get information from people that have scrapbooks. And so I did. I called Larry Carr and said, gee, Larry, you've been in the school for 30 years or more, and do you have some historic information that we might be able to use and would be of the quality to put up? And he got me in touch with his brother Wes, who was, and still is, quite an athlete, and was involved along with Larry and others here. Dan Driscoll, if he's here, was a coach of the JV team that year. In 1957, the Fabius school won the county championship for small and medium-sized schools, which was quite remarkable because it was so small. We're so small at that time relative to the other schools. And Wes had a scrapbook that his sister prepared, and it's on here. The whole history of that championship season from 1957. And we don't have it all here to show you today, but it is all there in very good quality on the site. What we would like to do is to find people that have scrapbooks of the baseball seasons, 2 of them, when Fabius won the overall state championship in baseball. We'd like to put that up. We'd like to have a collection of stories about longtime teachers and in particular coaches in the school district. And we have some of that information now in various of these other scrapbooks, not indexed, as you asked, but available, and we hope to be able to pull that out and create a topical categories. That's a picture of that, the surviving members of that team 50 years later.
And this is the project that Vaughn is working on right now. This is the big book of Wes Carr's history of basketball. He's got all those slides to work on this winter.
Yeah, that book is a little frustrating because it's not topical. It's, it's one family picnic, and then it'll be a history of his brother Larry and his coaching career. And it needs to be pulled together and made sense of.
One thing Wes had tucked in the very back end of his scrapbook is his memories growing up, the activities he and his brother Larry had on the farm, and the sports that they played, and the different animals that they raised. And it was just a nice little 4-page article, and they talked about how they wanted to buy cows, so they went out and picked berries and sold the berries to buy a cow, but most people would think about raising a cow for milk or meat, but they wanted to ride them. And then their father bought him a donkey as long as they clean out the chicken coop. And so he remembers all these things, and then includes a few pictures of horses. 1962 and 2012. So that was nice that he took the time to write that. Then there's a collection of books on Fabius that we have, and we haven't put them on yet. We have an internal discussion by the Historical Society whether we want to reprint the books and sell them, or whether we want to make them available to the public for free, and we haven't decided, but I just thought we could share what exists out there. This is the blue book written under the direction of Mary DeMong in 1958. The red book, which was a really good book, written by the eighth grade class of Fabius in 1938. Debbie Duvall's work putting together photos of the village, and she was able to get into Kate Cameron's collection of photos, which very few people have, include those in there. And then this is a book that was privately published, and there aren't many copies around, and it is fantastic. And Milton Hamilton became the New York State historian, born and raised in Fabius. And it's got some nice little sketches in it. The family has given us permission to reprint that or put it up on the cloud, either way. And then we've got a collection of newsletters that we've only got a few of them on so far, but we're working to get those on.
We could use more volunteer help for those of you who are comfortable with using the computer to help upload these
And
onto the.
And they come with lessons and access to Photoshop and all kinds of things, but the newsletters will be all up there. This is just the coal settlement church that was stolen out from underneath the neighbors.
That was one of the first newsletters that I read when I joined the society a few years back. And it's just a fascinating story of coal settlement.
And how all the neighbors watched the contractor come in and take the whole buildings down and holler them away, and nobody ever questioned them, and he didn't own them and didn't have the right to do it.
Do we know where he took it?
Yeah. But nobody ever did anything.
But
Now-
that is, now that, is that one loaded?
Yeah.
So that is up, and anybody, any of us can read that history of coal settlement in great detail and have terrific photographs, better than what is showing through this projector.
Yeah. And you go up to Coal Settlement now, and you couldn't even believe there was a church or a parsonage there. But another file we have, and this is my wife's project, she's worked on it for many years, is obituaries. And,
You'll always get more insurance.
Are
You
you
know-
looking for volunteers to die? So
if you had every obituary ever written in a pile, you could alphabetically sort them out. But since old ones are coming in all the time, and then as people pass away, new ones show up, there's no way to do a real alphabetical listing. So the best we can do is break down A's and B's and C's. But we've got thousands of these obituaries, and people contact us all the time wanting to know about different people. And when you give them an obituary, they really get excited. And these are all in 8x10s, and we try to utilize the space as best we can.
So
So
that's all one person.
no, this is first page of A, and it could be many people on that page. And this is all done high resolution, so you can make an 8x10 photo of just this lady right here, and then we'll print fine. So if anybody happens to have a collection of obituaries and would let us photograph them, we've gone to the scrapbooks, and we've enjoyed Carlina's books, and copy all her obituaries out of there, and Joanne keeps making pages after pages, and she's got 2 full binders now, 3 inches thick, and she's got to start the 3rd. So this is just a couple samples. Some of the obituaries, are great, having pictures in them. I think we're at the end of our slides.
We'll build up,
What about maps? Do you have anything in the maps?
Yeah, we've got to go on the internet to see that.
while Bill is doing that, let me talk about a project that Linda has underway. When we were given the last of the scrapbooks that Judy Conway had collected, Jimmy brought over boxes of untreated clippings and photographs, and said, "Here, you'll take them." Well, we spent, several of us spent several afternoons down here sorting all these clippings categorically into doctors, grocery stores, school. I think we have 35 or 40 different categories. And we want to make scrapbooks of categorical subjects. For instance, history of medical care, doctor's offices in the village. And we also want to take and go into the existing scrapbooks and be able to lift out of them items that would fit into those categories, so that in the future, when somebody looks on our site, if they want to know about doctor's office and medical care in the village, it'll all be there in one site. And that's a big project. I don't know how far we'll get with it in our lifetimes, but we're interested in trying to further that.
This just gives you an idea of the detail. This is a David Burr map. David Burr was hired by the state of New York to map all the counties in New York State. And every town was required to submit a map of their town, which they put together. And believe it or not, Fabius, in 1824, submitted their copy, which existed. I just happened to pull up Cuba because my cousin was over, and his mother was the town historian in Locke. And I didn't realize Cuba County was part of the military tract. And he was telling me that it was. And this family farm was in lot 36. So this gives you just an idea of the resolution that's available. And if you use a control plus and minus, you could enlarge anything. This is out of Clark's Onondaga, this man. It seems like every time I bump into something on my computer that I've collected, I just upload it. So I never really have sat down and said, okay, today I'm going to just start putting more stuff on the cloud. And until Vaughn showed interest in this project a couple of years ago, I had thought that it was just going to be my own project and nobody ever had any interest. So I'm tickled to see this many people come to a meeting to look at this.
I had asked Bill why we didn't have more of the old newsletters on, because some of the research that Joanne and Bill did of, we'll say, the Cabbage King, if you remember that one years ago, from Apulia, those old newsletters had tremendously well-researched articles on Fabius history. And I said, well, Bill, they should be on the cloud. I didn't realize what I was asking him. You know, it's a whole lot of work. And really, folks, if there are some of you who are comfortable with using computers, please come and see us after the meeting. And
Even if you're not comfortable, if you just want to learn a little bit, we'll be willing to teach you. Now, here's an area, since we have a couple of town officials here. We've asked the town board if we could copy some of the town records, those records that are valuable to people to look at. And the town responded and said, yes, we'd allow you to do that. But you must come to the village and set up your equipment during the hours that the village town clerk is here.
That's pretty limited.
And then you can do it. And meanwhile, many towns are paying people to digitize their records for safety purposes. And yet our town is willing to allow us to do it for free if we can fit their schedule. And then again, maybe I have as many town records as the town does, I don't know. So I don't know where we're headed. But since we had a couple town officials here, I thought I'd at least throw that out at them. So now, as you came in, you saw a lot of pictures being flashed on the screen. And that's under this file right here. There's 450 photos that have been loaded here. So anything that you saw there is available. We haven't done diaries. I have some, and I wanted to just show this file because this lady kept diaries. If I can pull up the photo. This is a Heffernan gal, and come to find out she's a relative, and her descendants loaned me her diaries, and she had 50 years of them. And every little entry each day seems insignificant until you understand what was going on in her life. Like, she took a first aid class, and suddenly everybody who died of a certain disease, but before they were sick and died, now they had a name for what killed them. She lost a child, and her only comments were, "The doctor was here, I lost my boy." And that was the end of her comments about it. But yet, when they lost a calf in the barn, she wrote a whole paragraph about how they worked so hard on the calf. She fell on the front porch and broke her hip. She was in the hospital to get it put back together, and she's in her diary writing, "I'm in the hospital today, I fell and broke my hip. Just another one of those days." You know?
It's not going to load for you. No?
You know, one of those things. But there's a picture of her and her family. It just was amazing. What people write in diaries, and little things that happen.
So is that under one of the master photo collection file folders?
Yes. And it's, should be photo number 2. And here, this is the gal, and they lived in the Nancy Lorraine Hoffman farm. And every year they would move from upstairs in the summertime to downstairs for the wintertime. And it was a big deal. You know, the rugs had to be moved and everything had to be taken outside and cleaned and brushed. Their daughter was Catherine Heffernan, the school teacher. The school in Syracuse was named after her. This was her. This is my relative here. She married James Casey. James Francis. So there's the collection. Anybody give us any ideas, direction? Are we doing okay? Should we quit? Is it okay with free?
Keep it up, keep going. In your spare time, Bill, keep going, you're doing a perfect job.
Oh, speaking of projects, Linda Myers had mentioned that it would be a really good time to redo the Fabius photo book that Debbie Duvall had once done, and updated with new collected photos. And so we're looking for people that want to jump in and write a little paragraph about a photo so we can generate a nice new book. We're getting lots and lots of photos, so if anybody is willing to help, I guess it's Linda to take the names and.
Wonderful. We sold all the other books, and we just had kept a copy or two that we know for our society, and we've been asked to please do another one. So we're looking for absolutely any of those photos that could be added or a better shot of. And if those of you who want to look at that book, certainly I'll try to get one to you so that you can see what we're talking about.
The other book that we started, everybody graduated from Fabius School in 1895. And I don't know, are we up farther on that now? Have we updated it, Linda?
Sandy keeps it updated, and we just reprinted the one that is up to 2015. And every day, we try really hard to watch the obituaries, and sometimes we miss someone who may have been a graduate, and if it's not in the obituary, we receive a phone call and/or we do some guessing. So your help on any of this, Sandy is very good about taking care of that detail and then transferring it to Bill so that the next time around, and we try not to print too many because it changes all the time.
Yeah, these are printed on demand, so we don't have to have a big box of them. If somebody wants a copy, we're out, it's 10 days to have a new copy made. It doesn't cost us any more to have one printed or 100 at the same place. Carlina, I just thought maybe you'd like to see what your scrapbook ended up looking like, since you allowed us to do
I can't understand you.
it. Okay. Your scrapbooks that you made are here, and this is what we're looking at right now. We just took photos of the various pages and
These are your scrapbooks that you gave us, and that's what he's showing right now. I think you got them back.
yeah, we just photographed them and returned them back to
I
Judy.
got tons of them. Every obituary copy that anybody ever done.
Yeah.
Well, these are the scrapbooks of all the school things that are.
So there's 235 of volume 1 that are all here. Now, people that make scrapbooks have a tendency to make them really big, and they make it really hard for me to photograph. So I have to take pieces of them instead of a full page.
Wallpaper books.
Yeah. Well, they're great, easier to make scrapbooks like that, but they're really hard to photograph, so I have to have my camera way up in the air. So. So this isn't taking up any space in your computer or anything like that, you're just looking at it. And if you want to save something, you can just save it. You can just hit Control-P and this will print for you. Or if you can actually go over here and make a comment that somebody would read.
So I guess the point of this scrapbook is that it's things of interest to Carlina during her lifetime of collecting clippings. But it may also be of interest to non-breed family members when they get looking for information about period history. And I guess this particular page is an indication of that. And it's something that maybe we can pull out and put into our medical or doctor's file if we ever get that far.
And if we had enough volunteers, if somebody was looking through this scrapbook, they would say, okay, I'm saving doctor information, and they would save this page. And all they would have to do is download it and keep going along, and when they find more doctor information, they just save it for us. And if we had a person on each topic, it wouldn't be that bad to go through these. Now, as Vaughn has edited these pages, of course, he has to read them, and that takes time. And it's pretty interesting stuff.
You just whittle away a little at a time.
Yeah.
And hope everything is dated.
It's not.
Remember that when you save pictures.
Amen.
Yes.
But you see somebody has scribbled a date on that one for us. So I guess unless anybody has any more questions.
He's had a lot of technical questions, which she'll ask you.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, and as you can see, these gentlemen have made a tremendous effort, but they can use some help. And you're making, as they said, a contribution to the future and to future generations. So we'd love to have some volunteers come forward. Thank you so much. Oh, Courtney.
Volunteer coming forward.
I'm Courtney Tucker, not a native of Fabius. Matter of fact, I'm a native-born Californian. I moved to Washington State, moved to Virginia. Met a girl from Syracuse who was Dory Jacoby Kane's daughter. And so now I'm here instead of in Santa Barbara with Katy Perry. So I get to enjoy the winters. I've gotten into the Civil War because of my mother-in-law, Dory Jacoby Kane. And I looked up the information on her great-great-grandfather, Jacob Jacoby. I've also been very interested in the unit he was with, which had a company eye from this town and from Pompey by the name of Jared T. Abbott. Well, Jared T. Abbott donated everything that he collected in the Civil War to the state archives. And I spent 2 days taking digital photos of everything he donated. It's 243 documents. I've got 25 of the papers that I've written about Fabius and the Civil War and the 185th New York. And this is 520 megabytes. I don't think you have enough to do. Do something with that.
Can we share this with the community through our program?
Share it with the world.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. We've got some great refreshments, folks. As usual, always great.
I'm not real good with the camera hand of it, so if there's any.